Welcome back to my channel. It's JJ. Thank you for joining me. I just want to tell you a brief story. I knew a girl many years ago who met a guy. He seemed different than all the others she dated. He was attentive, over-caring, over-loving, spoiled her, made her feel like the princess, showing up randomly wherever, whenever, gifts for no reason, said I love you first. In her world, he was everything, like no man ever was to her. But after like 6 months, she would tell her friends there was incidences of arguments where he would just insult her, put her down, and make her feel like less than she was. Her own family said, you need to choose us over him or move out. So she moved out after 6 months of dating him. You know, the honeymoon period, everything was great in the beginning. They had a few arguments about, money and bills and where are you if you don't come home from work right away and whatnot, and not answering the phone. But aside from that, she was happy. But when things weren't happy, they were miserable. The verbal insults and the verbal arguments that turned to physical violence. She would tell her friends, me being her best friend, a story about an argument. She doesn't remember what started it, but he was just angry. No stopping him. In the heat of the moment, he just punched her, smacked her, threw things at her. She didn't know what was going on. She never experienced this before, especially not with him, but nobody else either. She didn't know he can turn this way. Well, guess what? When you think you know somebody, you really don't. After a while, the fight was over. She had a few bruises. Didn't need to go to the hospital or anything. He apologized again. The next day, he came with those gifts for no reason. Just cover-ups, in my opinion. But anyway, she would tell her close friends about this, and we would tell her, you don't need to stay with him. But what we didn't know is he had damaged her thought process so bad, convincing her that she was nothing, that she was worthless, that nobody else would ever want her, she was not attractive, that she'd be alone and miserable for the rest of her life if she was to walk away from him. And in her mind, he was right. So she stayed. Against everybody else's input, she stayed. I can only imagine what was going through her mind. But after a year, 2 years, just kept getting worse and worse. One time, they had an argument, and it got physical. She screamed. He yelled. Things got thrown against the wall, and police showed up at the door because the neighbors called the police to save her. And when the police showed up, you know what she did? She said, there's no problem here. We just got into an argument. Everything is fine. She was crying, but the bruises weren't showing yet. She didn't say, take him away, he's bad. She covered for him because, like I said, he had her convinced she deserved this. But we knew she did not. But we had no way to convince her using the same control that he had. Okay? Same pattern. He apologizes. She accepts. Maybe gives, but if not, she stays. Now you might think, why stay? Because the control, the narcissism, and the what ifs. I can't do this on my own. He told me nobody would want me. I don't want to be alone. For the good days, I want him. For the bad days, obviously I set him off. I deserved it. That was her narrative. But we all know as outsiders, nobody deserves that. Nobody should live that way. More time goes by. She gets pregnant. The abuse stopped. So she's like, oh good, this is a good thing. It stopped for 9 months. A few weeks shortly after having the baby, fighting about waking up in the middle of the night for a diaper or feeding or spending time with the baby so she can have a moments to herself, because it was very overwhelming as new parents or as a new mom. We know dads have it easier. The baby was in his crib. She was fighting and arguing, and this time she said, I'm not gonna sit back and take the punches. I'm gonna fight back. He's not gonna push me over anymore, even though I'm in a weakened state from just having a child for like 2 weeks ago or whatever. I'm gonna fight back. He's throwing objects at her. She's throwing objects at him. Thankfully, nothing hit the baby. I think at that moment, neither of them remembered he was in the room. It got to a point where they tussled. He's on the bed. She's on top of him. He's making looks like it's sexy time. But no. She wanted to hurt him for all the hurt he had caused her. She told us after she got on top of him to hurt him, to strangle him for all the times he tried to strangle her. She put her hands around his neck, but her hands were too small. His neck was too thick. This monster had a thick neck. He had like 100 pounds over her, 4 inches on her, and a thick neck. So she said that's not gonna work. So she grabbed a pillow, 2 pillows, put them over his face, sat on top of him. He's still thinking all is good, all is fun. Like we're gonna have some freaky nick or something. But she was trying to hurt this person for 3 years worth of abuse. But he overpowered her and controlled her once again and took her and tossed her to the floor. She broke some bones, hit her head. He didn't stop there. He kept kicking. He kept punching, like she was a dummy on the floor and not a woman deserving of more. Baby's crying now. The mom hears the baby. The father doesn't. He's just getting his licks in as any way he can. I don't remember the story where she told me that it ended. But thankfully, she got out. She sought medical treatment in the hospital. And we all thought this was it. This was her breaking point. But no. She went back. A few days later, she went back. As her friend, knowing these stories, seeing the bruises, pictures of the bruises, I couldn't help but say, just walk away. Take your baby and go. For your safety, for the baby's safety. And she would turn to me and say, I don't want to be a single mom. Somehow, some way, I deserve his treatment. She still believed that after the worst of the worst happened. And she stayed. One time, I was visiting. The baby was at their grandparents' house, and she was in the room with this guy, and I was in her living room with a guy I was dating. And they got into an argument. And it got louder. Okay, you mind your business. Their house. They're having a disagreement. But for me, knowing her history, knowing what he's capable of, I had an ear to that door without being next to it. And I was listening. And the voices got louder. She's crying. She's screaming, stop. You don't have to do this. Don't do it anymore. I'll stay, I'll stop, I'll do whatever you say, just don't. And he banged her head against the wall. You could tell by the sound from the other room. I got up. I was ready to bust through that door and save my friend. And my guy, he stopped me. He said, no, we don't do that. I said, what do you mean we don't do that? As a woman, hearing another woman scream, thankfully not the bloody murder kind of scream, but scream nonetheless, I said, you cannot stop me. He stopped me. Not for my own protection, but he's like, it's an unwritten rule of some sort. You just don't get involved in a fight like that. I should have called 911, but I didn't. I regret that to this day. And once again, because it's so many years, I don't recall how I left the apartment, how that situation ended. I don't even know where she is at this point in time. In 2025, I don't know where he is. I lost touch with her because her toxic, abusive relationship was too much for me as a friend to watch. And she was not going to leave him anytime soon because he made her feel like he was the end-all be-all. I hope that she's still alive. I hope that, like I talked about in the previous videos, it didn't turn to him ending her life over her trying to leave him, or worse, abusing her so severely that she didn't make it out. As I said, thousands, millions of people in these cities. Women should not have to put up with this. Men should not control and abuse those that they claim to love. It could happen vice versa, but it's more common for a man to use his control and overbearing, overloving ways to verbally and physically abuse another woman. This is my story. It's a story that I wish I didn't know about, that I wish I didn't witness. But we all probably know somebody or been there, and here we are today. Thank you for listening. Please respect each other. Don't resort to violence. Have a good one.